All right, for this next part of our tutorial, we are going to look at the contact section. And like I said before, right now it's sitting empty. There's nothing in there because the HTML file that we created is also empty, aside from the from the header that we'll be using, because we'll need all of the fonts and style sheet and all that stuff. So now what we're going to do, we're going to actually switch over to the contact because we're going to be working on that now. It is empty right now, but we're going to take parts that we know that we're going to reuse from the other ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the body here. I'm just going to put some space because I know we're going to be adding stuff. Let's jump to the index and let's just take some things that we know we're going to need. For example, let's take the entire nav section. We'll just copy all of that and we'll copy it into the body. Save it, and that will show up. Like I said, see how fantastic that is? You've got the classes all set up and the style sheet all set up. Copy and paste, everything just magically appears. We're also going to take the footer section because that's also going to be repeated as well. I'm going to copy that little chunk that's down near the bottom. I'm going to paste that in just above the closing tag for the body. Everything else, and there it is, now it shows up. Everything else is going to be in between. Like I said before, think of like a sandwich. It's going to be sandwiched between the nav bar and the footer. Okay, so that sounds good. Let's do this. So I'm going to devote the first half of making the form to just creating the form and how the forms work and sort of the functions of the forms. And the second part to this, the second video that'll go with this, will be actually styling the form and making it look good. Okay, so let's go through it. Now, to make a form in HTML, actually, let's give this a title. Actually, let's make a div. We're gonna go class equals form. We're gonna call it form because it is a contact form. This is basically a form that people would use to fill out their information and contact the lodge or whatever we're making this for, whatever we want to call this place. We'll call it a lodge for now. So let's do this. Let's put an H1 in here. Let's call it contact us today! Exclamation mark, right? And save. Oops, save. And you're going to notice that it's going to go behind the heading, and that's because this this div is a static div, and the nav is I believe we set it to a fixed div. So the positioning is what's causing that. We're going to fix that after. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make, let's do this in a div because then we can control it better. We're going to put another div in here. This is just setting up some text. We're going to put a paragraph, and I'm going to say contact us today for information on booking at our lodge. Something like that. Okay? Just some information again, just some text with, so it makes it look a little more legit to an actual form. We're going to save that. And again, you're going to see that it's all up here. Don't worry about it for now. We're going to fix that all when we go into the stylizing part. Okay. For the next part of this form, we're going to actually create the form itself. And now forms, there's a couple tricky things about how forms work, but I'm going to explain it as best as I can. First of all, we're going to create a form by using the form tag. Every form is going to have an action attached to it, and basically that is what is going to happen, basically what's going to happen when you send the form. So we're just going to set this up like this. We're going to put the exact same name, contact, HTML. This is a nice little extra little thing you can add here is when the form sends. So if the form sends, if it does send, it'll go to contact HTML. The method that is going to use to send the form is post. Okay, so it's going to be sent through mail. And again, none of this, by the way, is going to work locally. It'll only work if we post this on a server. And that might be a whole nother video at some point. But I'm going to just call this the FAQ form, or the FAQ form, which is frequently asked questions. Okay. And we've got our form. Now, if I save this, nothing's going to change. There's nothing going on yet. We have to actually put the elements inside of the form. So the form has different types of input that people can enter into the form itself. And there's a whole bunch of them. I'm only going to go through a few of them here, but I want to show you how each of them works because they are slightly different. And most of them, just going off memory, most of them are inside of the input tag. Okay, so the input tag means that we are going to have the person viewing this page, whoever that might be, whoever's come to the site, they're going to be inputting some sort of information. So the first one I'm going to show you is the text input. So we put type, this is like type of input is going to be text. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to give all of our input fields an ID. Okay, and I'm just going to call this contact. Let me see here. No, you know what? I'll call it F name for full name. This will make sense hopefully in a bit here. The name of this input, name equals F name as well. And then we can put size equals, which is basically how many characters it can hold. I'm going to say 30. And that should be good, I think. We will see. And we're going to go put a break after that. So let me show you what this does. We save it. It creates a block, okay? You see this block that it created? This block we can type into it. Okay, so that is an input text block. Okay, and it allows us to input something into the block that we've created. Now, size is 30, so this will hold 30 characters. The name of this, when it shows up on the form, when it's submitted, is F name, which stands for full name. And its ID is also full name. So these two things, we probably don't need ID. This is something later on we might get into. But the most important thing is the input tag, the type of input you're expecting, what ID it falls under, what name it has when it gets collected, and then the size of the box itself. There's one other thing we can add, which I really like, I use it all the time, is placeholder. And placeholder is what text is going to be in the box when the form loads. So this is basically saying, like, giving the person instructions for what to put in each box. So I might say full name. And I'll put an asterisk because an asterisk means that it's required. So we would save that. And you'll see that when you put that, there's kind of a grayed out version. You've probably seen this on forums and, like, you know, in apps. But basically it's giving you a hint as to what goes in there. Now when you click in there and start writing, that'll disappear. But when there's nothing in there, it'll have the placeholder text, which kind of tells us what we're supposed to put into there. Okay, so let's do this. Let's copy. I just want to shrink this window because this is kind of annoying. Let's copy this line here 2 more times. I'm going to paste it 2 more times like this. And we're going to make one for email address. Okay, so this one will be email address. Email address. And we have to update the name, so we'll call it email. Email. And that will also give the ID the same name. We'll keep that going. And we'll also create one for phone number. So the placeholder tells us what we're supposed to put in there. Okay. Number. By the way, I'm putting asterisks at the end of each one because that's telling us that it's required. Meaning that they have to fill that out. So I'll call that phone and phone. So now you see there's 3 blocks. They tell us what we're supposed to put into each block, and they're all things that we can edit and fill out. Now I'm looking at this and I think I'm going to put 2 spaces in between because I don't like it with just one. It kind of looks bad. We'll even add an extra one here so we got room for the next thing we're going to add. And now you'll see that they're spaced out a little bit nicer, a little bit nice. Yeah, more nice. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a different input type, and that is the text area input type. So for this input, we had input text. The next one here, actually before we get to text area, let's do the radio option. So let's pose a question here by using a paragraph tag. And let's say, how did you hear about us? Okay, so we're kind of creating like a poll for the people who are on this site. And for this one, we're going to use an input tag. And we're going to use a type that is a radio input. Okay. And the ID for this one, let's put friends. This would be friends. Now these ones work a little different than the text one that we had just looked at. The name is going to be, let's put hear from us, which is the question that it's asking, and I'll explain why we did it this way in a second. And the value is going to equal friends. Okay, and let's copy this. Actually, let's leave this for now. We're gonna add some text here. The way that radio buttons work is we create labels. So we do a label, and we have to say what it's for. And this is for the box friends. Okay, you see the ID above says friends, right? Okay, and we're gonna close that label, and in between the label text here, we're gonna put the word friends. So if I save this, yeah, so we got a radio box. How did you hear about us? Friends is the only option right now that we can choose. Okay, but it'll allow us to select that. Let's say we've got a drop down of a bunch of different choices, right? Let's say we want to choose something different other than friends. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire block right here, the input and the label, and I'm going to put it down here sort of below. Whoops, how come it did that? Let's go back. Let's go over here. Oh, I don't know. I don't like the way that it's spacing out. That's okay. So again, we've got another option here, and this option maybe is going to be, how about web search? So they found out about this place from a web search, and we save it. I want to show you something. Right now, we can pick only one or the other, which is correct. That's what we want. And the reason that we can only choose one or the other is because both of these have the same name. All right, if we were to call this one Hear From Us 2, you would see that we can only pick, or I mean, we could pick both, okay? If we have the same name, then we can only pick one option, okay? Now we would also go ahead and update all the things in here, like here we would call this web search, and the ID for this one would be web search, okay? This is all really important for when the form gets processed and we actually want to see what somebody input into our form after we receive it. But there's that. Now it's actually going to give us the right value. Let's do one more since we're kind of on a roll here. We'll copy it. It's pretty easy. Paste it in. I always move input back. I know that's maybe not right. But this one will be advertisements. Like that. Oop, did I spell that right? Advertise. Oops, no, there's not supposed to be an E in there. And same deal. Values, we'll just update them. So we got, I'll just call it ads for sake of speeding this up a little bit. And the ID will be ads. And the 4 will be ads. So 3 spots that we change. Save, and now we got a choice between the 3. Okay, and that works perfectly fine. And the last one we're going to look at for this particular form is an input type for if we had to write, let's say, a long answered question. So this will be an input. And, oh, sorry, it won't be an input, my bad. This one is going to be a text area. Okay, actually, I should put it all lowercase because it works either way, but still, text area, which is how we can create an area that people type into. So the name of this, we'll call it comments, I guess. Makes sense. And again, the name just is something descriptive to what you think it should be. This one works a little different. We have rows. So let's maybe go with 6 rows. And we got columns as well. We just put cols equal, let's say 30. That should work. And, oh, we can also put some placeholder in there. I closed it too early. Placeholder can say questions and or comments. Something like that. And we'll save it. Now you'll see over here that it makes an entire text box that we can type into with multiple lines, okay? It's spaced out really bad. So I think up here after advertisements, I'll put another break. We'll save that. Okay, so I know this form isn't looking great because we are going to spend another video doing that to make it look good. But for now, we've got all the fields we want them to fill out. The only thing we're missing is the submit button so that they could actually submit this form. And that's also another input type. So down here after the text area, we are going to put another input. And this one, the type is going to equal submit. And the value here is whatever we want the button to say. So I'm going to say click here. Or it could say submit. I don't know. Whatever you want to say. Contact us. Whatever you want it to say. And then save. And you'll see the button show up. We need a break. We need a break in here. My bad. Breaks are important to space things out. And now you have a very, very simple looking form. Okay, very simple looking form. That is not yet working, and it doesn't really look great just yet, but we're going to make it look good in a sec. Actually, I should keep that separate so you guys can actually see the areas. There are other areas. There are other things we can add. We could add drop downs. We could add, there's other inputs we can put into here as well. But for now, this is a very basic form. If you want to get more into that, you can. So if you look and we review what we did, we created a form class. We put some text just to kind of dress up the top. We added an input text box, which allows them to put in their name, their email, their phone number. We added an input radio box, and it's the reason it's called a radio box. It's supposed to look like a radio dial. We could pick one of these choices. And then we added a text area box, which allows the person to put in a lot of text into this field. And lastly, we put a submit button, which would allow them to actually submit the form once they filled it out. That's where we're going to stop for this one. I know that was a long one, but we still have to style this. So that was the first part, and the next part should go a lot quicker.